because I've invested in 125 companies, they span essentially every vertical, every sector you can imagine, from hardware to software, even within software marketplaces, software as a service, all kinds of different spaces. And I'm a seed stage investor. For the most part, most of the companies I invest in are at the seed stage, which is typically invest before a company has any real metrics or even before a product in the market. So most of my thinking around investing in a company is focused on the founder, the idea, and what I call founder market fit, the market they're targeting. So a few things I look for. First, well, actually, even before we're getting into that, it's very important to remember that early stage investing has a lot of mortality, a lot of debts, company debts. So for every Shape Security was a security company, I invested in the seed round. That was a $1 billion acquisition a couple months ago by F5 public company. For every Shape, there's probably 5 companies that I've invested in that have either died or are probably going to die. So you probably 1 out of 6 companies survive. I mean, or have an exit like that. That's actually really good batting average. Early stage investing is all about bets that can go either go to zero or become really big. So that's really important to remember. I think the later stage you go, so if somebody invests at say Series D or post like pre-IPO, there the upside is lower, but you also have fewer mortality. You have fewer deaths. And the early stage is all about swinging for the fences every single time. So what do I look for, and how do I determine? First and foremost, it's a founder. A lot of people talk about investing in founders, but the reality is my biggest regrets have been in not focusing on the founder too much. And biggest regrets is not about investing for me, because as I say, when you invest, you can only lose 1x your money, right? When you don't invest, you can lose essentially maybe the opportunity to invest in Facebook, but also the relationship with the person. And so my biggest regrets are companies I didn't invest in, even though I knew the founder extremely well and thought very highly of him, but I didn't invest because I got too fixated on the exact idea. And so one of my determinations, or one of the things I've resolved to myself is, if I think highly of the founder, if I think they're excellent at execution, if I think they're amazing at building a team, at articulating a vision, and if they're determined, they will run through walls to get to the vision, I will invest in them regardless of the idea. So anybody who's ever worked with me or for me, I will invest in them. I'll invest at least a $25,000 check in them, and probably more, but I want to invest in them because I believe in them. So that's the number one thing. Founder first, always at the seed stage, because time and again, I've seen how great founders, even taking lousy initial ideas, have morphed it, stayed within the market, and figured out how to find a way to a much better idea, much better product, and have built great businesses. So I will never not back a great person that I think is great. So founder first. Second, market. And so what I look for is it an extraordinarily large market? So because the bigger the market is, and bottoms up, you want to be large. I think everyone can say top down, here's a market, social networking, 10% of that is this, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for bottoms up. How many people are there who could actually use it? How many companies are there who could use it for a B2B company? Because the bigger the market is, the more mistakes you can make in the market. And it allows you to make mistakes because the market is big enough. Because there's always mistakes that are made during the course of a company. So and you can actually tweak and pivot and move things around, because also ideas change. You don't have to abandon the market. If the market is too small, you've got to abandon it if your initial product is not the right aimed exactly perfectly. So the second thing is the market opportunity bottoms up. The third thing is what I call founder market fit. And how I define it is, does the founder have a non-obvious insight about the market, which is compelling and unique? I want to understand what about the founder's thesis is contrarian, which is, why does the founder think the existing players are wrong? And why their startup specifically, why their insight is unique, and why the startup is going to win? And really non-obvious is important, because if it's an obvious insight, reality is that other people are also having it, and most likely it's going to be competed away very quickly. So you want it to be non-obvious, and you want it to be something that a random smart person like you or me reading these tech magazines or journals on a daily basis don't just have it. We are not just thinking that. It needs to be almost oh my gosh, when you hear that, you're like, okay, I never thought of this angle on this market. And so that's the kind of insight you want on the market. And that means that the founder has actually spent time thinking about the market and actually ideally experiencing the market. One of the worst ways to start a company, I think, is sitting in a room with your friends and brainstorming ideas for a company. And great companies are never created that way. You ideally got to have experienced that problem in real life, either in life or in work. And then you feel passionate about this problem. And that's how you have a non-obvious insight about the market. You'll never get a non-obvious insight reading the tech journals and sitting with your friends and brainstorming. So when people who work for me have gone off to start companies, I don't encourage them to leave unless I encourage them to leave if they have an idea which they've really experienced in their life or work, and they can't sleep unless they solve this idea. But if their way of starting a company is to sit in a room with some friends and brainstorm, that's a horrible way to start a company. And so I really feel it has to come from a place of passion. And that's the other thing I look for. Are they really passionate? What's the founding story? That's the first question I always ask. What's your founding story? Which really tries to understand, how did this idea germinate? If there's not a compelling pain point that they experience or that somebody close to them experienced that led to them, I think that's not going to be a great company, because it's going to be driven by some analytical data that they read about. This market is big, security is big. Let's go create a thing and whatever the case is. Versus, here's a problem I experienced viscerally, and I want to go solve it.